This is the weightless arms experiment, okay? Now, what we need here are some arms, preferably attached to a body, so that's always useful. So you need to find someone to do this with, okay? So you need another person, a friend or something like that. What you need to do is ask them to stand nice and straight with their hands down by their sides. Now, I know you can't see the bottom part of my arms, but that's okay. Just have your arms right flat to your sides so your hands are down by the side of your legs like that, okay? Then what I want you to do, let's say now you're doing it on somebody else, so you're going to tell them to stand like that. So get your friend, say, oi, stand nice and straight, please. Stand with your hands like that, stand to attention. And what I want you to ask them to do is to very gently and slowly just lift their arms up into the air like this. Okay, just lift their arms up and down again. A bit like they're sort of flying in slow motion, assuming they can fly like that, I suppose. So just gently lifting their arms up and down, and ask them to tell you, or just ask them to notice how it feels when they're doing that, how much force they're using and stuff like that, whatever description they want to use really. Okay, just ask them to do it a few times like I'm doing it. Right, then say, okay, stop please, and then tell them to stand to attention, and then this time what you do, you get in front of them, you might have to kneel down for this, and I want you to put your hands against their wrists and pin their arms to their side. So they're going to be standing to attention, and then you're going to be holding their hands in to stop them moving them. And again, you might have to find it easier to bend down a bit and do that. And tell them, right, this time, while you're holding their arms, you want them to try and lift their arms as hard as they can. Now, if you find someone who's about as strong as you won't have any problem. Because when they're doing it like that, it's very difficult for them to use too much force. And you can easily hold them in. So don't think you won't be able to hold them, you will. Okay, so say to them, right, when you're ready, try and push your arms up like that against your hands, okay, and you're going to hold their arms and they're going to try and lift their arms like they did before. Tell them to keep their arms straight, no bending arms. Keep their arms straight and to do it. And of course, you're going to be able to easily stop them, but you tell them they've got to keep trying really hard for about 30 seconds if they can, or as long as possible, okay? So as long as possible, keep pushing all the time, you mustn't give up, keep pushing, keep pushing. After 30 seconds, you take your hand away, and you say to them, now what I want you to do is do the same thing you did right at the start. As soon as I let go, do the same thing again. Tell me what you notice this time. Off you go. Now, just in case you didn't understand my instructions, because I was telling you to do it with somebody else, this is what happened when we did the experiment on the lovely Laura outside. This is the weightless arms experiment. And here we have the lovely Laura, who is offered to very kindly do this experiment with us, because you do need two people, okay? And we have the romantic serenade in the background, isn't that wonderful? I don't know if you can hear this, so I can. Right, Laura, what I want you to do, very simple. I just want you to stand where you're standing now, put your arms down your sides, and just gently, just swing your arms up gently, and just move them up and down gently, and notice how it feels just to lift them up and let them down again, okay? So just do it a couple of times, jolly good. Right, now, what I'm going to do is ask you to keep your hands where they are. I'm going to kneel down in front of you and hold your hands pinned against your body, not too hard, I'm not going to push hard, and just stop you moving your arms. And I want you to try and do the same thing again, but this time as hard as you can. So really hard against my hands holding you. And we need to do it for about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to let go and I'll ask you to do the same thing again, just gently. And this time I want you to tell me what you notice, if it's any different. Okay? Off we go. So I'm going to hold it down here. And when I say ready, now start pushing now. Remember, nice and firm, nice and firm. It's important you do it hard. And you've got to do it for about 30 seconds, remember. Or as long as the person can bear it, because it can be very tiring, this one. But Laura's doing very well. She's pushing really hard. It's quite easy to hold someone's arms in this way, though, because you've got a mechanical advantage. Because Laura's got to keep her arms nice and straight at all times, remember. Keep her arms nice and straight, no bending at the elbows. I think we're nearly there. Laura, you are doing it hard, aren't you? Right, when I let go, do the same as what you did. Ready? Now try and do it again for me, and tell me what you notice.
That's what it is.
What does it feel like?
They just started doing it on their own. They just pushed it up automatically.
Brilliant.
That's really
brilliant.
Yeah, that's really strange, actually.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, what's going on? So, did you find out the same thing when you did it with someone else? you remember what Laura said? She said her arms felt like they were sort of floating up on their own. Totally weird experience. Most people report something like that. Now, sometimes people say, well, they just sort of float up on their own and they get really surprised. That's what happened to me when I first did it as well. I say Laura seemed pretty surprised, didn't she? Your arms almost feel they're just going up. They become weightless. Totally weird. Some people don't report that. They just say, oh, it just seems so much easier to do it. It seems that they're so easy to go up in the air now. But most people I've done this with, most people actually do say, oh, my arms, they're floating on their own. It's totally weird. So what's going on? So, when you're trying to lift your arms up, I'm going to assume you're doing this now, right? So when you go to lift your arm up like that, to make your arm rise up like this, lots of the muscles here, you can't see them of course under your skin, lots of the muscles there are contracting, they're getting shorter, and as they get shorter it lifts the arm up, okay? Now for that to happen, your brain and your nervous system has to send signals down nerves to those muscles to make them contract. And one of the ways they contract is they release a little chemical into the muscles, and then that chemical causes the muscles to actually contract and pull your arm up like that. So of course, when you're trying really hard for about 30 seconds, you get lots of that chemical forming in those muscles, trying to make them contract. Well, of course, they are contracting. It's just that you can't lift your arm because someone's stopping you. So the muscles are contracting, but they're not managing to get your arm up, but the chemical's still there, making them contract. But when you suddenly say, right, stop, and just do it gently, some of that chemical is actually still there, being used up, if you like, still having an effect on the muscles. So the muscles still want to contract, and they actually do. So when you actually do this now, two things usually happen, and we've just talked about them. One is, it seems to you like your arms are just floating up on their own, because you're not controlling it anymore. You're not intending to lift your arm up, you're not meaning to do it, but those muscles are still contracting a bit on their own. But because you're not controlling it, it's a bit of a weird thing. Your brain's not used to that, and you get an illusion that think, oh, they're moving, floating on their own. Or the other thing, as I said, is sometimes it just feels so much easier to lift them. But most people report this weightless arms experience. Weird. So what other things could we try and vary to see what's going to happen? Well, of course, an obvious thing is the amount of time. So when you're standing there, I wonder what would happen if you could get your friend, if you're doing it to someone else, get them to push away for even longer. Of course, they were getting pretty tired by now, weren't they? Probably, like Laura was. But see if you can say, no, no, keep going, keep going, keep going, and see if that makes a difference to how it feels. Do you think it'd make any difference? What about if you do it for far less time, maybe only say 10 seconds? Really hard, only 10 seconds. Of course, you could get them to vary how hard they were doing it. I was asking Laura to do it as hard as she possibly could, but supposing I said, no, don't try really hard, just push a bit. I wonder what difference that might have made. What about changing the starting position? I've told you to get your friend to stand to attention, but supposing they start off from, say, here. Of course, that might be a bit more awkward for you, because you might have to sort of hold your hands like that, but you can do it. I've done it loads of times on people. So stand like that and tell them to do it from about this position. Or even from that position, say, right, hold your arms out and try and push up against my hands. So you'll be holding your hands on top of theirs then, wouldn't you? You say, right, I want you to push up against my hands. Okay, so that's another way of doing it. What about if you wanted to do this on your own? Because it may be you haven't got someone to do this with, because you might be at home. I'll give you a clue. You can find a wall to try with one arm. I'll see if you can figure out how you might do that. But if you want to do it with both arms, see if you can find a narrow doorway. Maybe a cupboard you've got in your house somewhere, built into the wall maybe. A narrow doorway. There's another clue for you. I'll leave you to figure that one out.